Cats are running around like dorks. Because it's what they do. All right, let's make sure my categories are right. We've got writing. What do we got over here for a category? Should also have writing. Woo, we're all set with writing. Excellent. Sweet. All right. Good morning, everybody. I just was up early doing stuff, and I can't do any of the work outside I was going to do today because it's, well, 22 degrees below Fahrenheit with the wind chill, and it is flying through here. So, no, I don't feel like working outside today. So, for the morning, I'm going to work on my how-to book. And there is no Calvino. He is snuggled up with the other kitty cats up on the bed in the master bedroom, like little caterpillars in a pile, as they should be. So there will be no cat cam, no Ralphs. Let's see here. I am going over in detail each one of the guiding principles for interactive storytelling with your players. And if anybody's done improv, I've been told that these are very similar. All right, adding something new to a player's story suggestion means pretty much what you think it does. The player suggests something either directly or being an assumption in the story. Go with it. Where did I get a ding? My cat's hanging out by the back door. Hopefully not. Nope, good. Every time I hear that ding, it's the same sound that my camera app makes. It tells me somebody's by one of the cameras, and I always worry when it's this cold out that the cats are just sitting there like, let me in. But they have multiple ways into the house. They just love coming over here, sitting on the heat mat and staring at the camera, hoping I'll let them into the basement while I'm working. That works. Maybe I'll scout it out for them. Secretly a pretty fair guy. We'll go with... he's likely going to nitpick their performance. Okay, do you think he's creepy? Lead into it, make him extra creepy. Hey, Da Vinci Gaming, how's it going? I'm just sitting here writing on a very cold January day, while the cats race around upstairs on the hardwood floors, making it sound like a racetrack. They literally just keep chasing each other around in circles. So if you hear that, those clunk noises, that's what it is. It's not a herd of cows. It's not a racetrack of dogs. It's just my cats. Hey, I'm glad you are flipping awesome. The best part about the racing cats is the two that make the most noise they're not the heaviest cats. They're like maybe 12 pounds, 13 pounds each. They're just little muscle-bound cats, and they are not the elegant cats, like, oh, I'm going to flop onto something. I'm going to hop. They run like horses. And when they jump off of something, they just let their weight know that it's hit the floor. It's kind of hilarious. I think they just like making noise. Yes, the wording is supposed to be blurred, yep. It's I have a composite blur over the whole thing, so I mean, if you see a large piece of text or a picture or something, you'll see, the word execution. But yeah, it's basically just a thing to protect the info that I'm writing, since I'll be publishing this on Kindle Direct at some point here. But the basic premise of this is it's a book for dungeon masters who have already played or run a lot of games, and or maybe not a lot, but run some games and want to be better at storytelling. So I'm using my, oh gosh, 40 plus years of DMing experience to try and put it together in a format that's going to be meaty, something that will stick with you with specific bullet points, because I have seen so many people write how-to books and it's just word vomit. It's literally just, here's everything that I could ever imagine that is in my head that may or may not be something I use, but it's things that I've seen, and they'll go on the internet and it seems like they've just pulled whole sections off of other sites where they're like, hey, this is how you do storytelling, this is how you do improv, this is how you do this stuff, and just wrote it again in their own words. And was like, oh, nobody wants to read through 382 pages of that, and no one's going to remember it. So I'm trying to do a very short, succinct book that should hopefully give people who want to work on their storytelling skills some really, I don't know, modular tools and concrete tools that will stick with them. So I'm trying to be a little pithy with it, some humor, and keep it in bullet point format in a lot of cases. That Daxi fella, he, I don't know, he's been really busy doing stuff, and he posted in Moonskull, he corrected Chris and Moss. He's like, hey, on the last Cthulhu stream, I think he said Chris made a fighting brawl roll, but never checked it at the end of the session to see if he improved it. So he's catching up on Cthulhu now, since he's been gone and out, and he now is going, boom, catching up, so he'll be ready to watch. So, oh, hey, thank you for the follow over on Twitch. Well, that's very nice of you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm on Kick and Twitch and all those things. I have a link tree somewhere too, but it's, all those things. All those things. Oh, let's see. Yeah, and so I'm working on expanding these little categories to bring them out. Like this one it says yes and. It's just a common thing that evidently a lot of people in improv do that I didn't really know was necessarily part of acting and improv. It's just something I naturally did. And I've been told by a lot of people that that is a foundational principle of a lot of improv. I'm like, okay. Ah, yes, you've seen me before on Kick. Oh my gosh, kitties. They're rambunctious with it being so cold. They won't even go out through their kitty cat door. Muffin was outside on her little perch because they can go out the kitty cat door into their little enclosure. If they don't want to go outside, they go into their little cat patio. And she was sitting out there like this in the wind, just... just like, why are you sitting out there? And then 5 minutes later, I went back and like, nobody was in the little cat patio. They're all back inside. Dorks. And Max was out on the front porch in the one of the heated cat houses. And he came out because I wanted to give him a snack, because he just refuses to come in unless I make him, because he's a feral cat. And I gave him a can of cat food, so he's sitting on the heating mat just eating it like, that's cold outside, but I'm fine. Then after he was done, he just boop right back in the cat house, sleeping on his little heated blanket. All right, let's see. And I made this NPC I'm talking about just like Tomix. If they think he's creepy, lean into it, make him extra creepy, just like Tomix. Oh, wait, maybe he should just be a troll. Okay. Can make his creepiness sort of endearing, make him pitiable when they want to know him. Perhaps he's super shy and hates dealing with people, but his father, the big boss, is trying to get him to grow a spine. Yep. Foibles, human faults. Oh, thank you. I had a whole gif of a a winter storm going, and some people loved it. Some people said it was too cold, and some people said it was just too distracting because it was just literally just tons of snow falling the whole time. It's like an ever shook up snow globe. Look, I stand out your window one time. Yeah. Well, the fact that it was a 3rd story window was the part that was the creepiest part, dude. You and your Lost Boys floating. Okay, maybe the bad guys managed to get the hearts of your players and their characters. Don't hate black. All right, so this was the second half of this. How do I want to do this? I could do a secondary. What did I do for this heading? This is heading 2. If I do heading 3, what does that look like? Do that. My gosh, you know, it's, oh, I hate this so much. It's so annoying, and this is going to sound really bad because technically the company I work for is now part of Microsoft, Greater Microsoft. They have this here now, and you guys can't quite see that because I have it off the screen, but there's a little box that pops up when you do a new line. It says draft with Copilot, and I can't turn the damn thing off. I just, yep. I don't use AI. I don't want to use AI. My gosh. Yeah, that's about right. And one of, how do I put this without making her sound really bad? My former HR professional at my job had the lewdest sense of humor of any person that I've met in my long life. She was as bad as a sailor, but she was also our HR representative, so she had to be incredibly professional. And she had a joke that is about a guy who had sex with a goat, and it's basically the same thing. And it's just the whole punchline at the end. He's like, look, you won a goat. ... Because it didn't matter what else he did, and that became his name. And I was like, don't tell me this. I don't want to know this. Oh, should this be? I should bring this in, right? Yeah, we'll bring it in one. All right. We'll put negate there. And of course, it automatically puts it back there. Oh, let's see. Don't negate what people say unless it happens to be something super offensive or incredibly... Pumpkin and Meriadoc. They just run around like crazy. You'd think Meriadoc and Pippin, who are brothers, would chase each other all the time, but no, it's always Meriadoc and Pumpkin running like idiots around the whole place. And they're playing with those little squeakers, even though they're broken now. They took the squeaky toys out of the ducks. But they broke the squeaker toys, so they've destroyed the ducks and taken the squeaker toys out of them and destroyed the squeaker toys. So now they have little pieces of rubbery plastic that they're like fighting over. Let's see. All right, let's see. Personally, and I know my keyboard is probably super loud because, well, my microphone picks up everything in the world. So sorry about that. Unless you like it, then enjoy. Oh, great. Now Graham is got his growl on. Normally he does that with Max, but now he's been doing it with the squeaky toys. Because if somebody comes and tries to take it from him, oh, he's had it and it's on. Oops. All right, we'll go with, oh, we gotta put double quotes there. There we go. Da 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 da. Who's the real idea? Give them raised eyebrow or verbal. What now? All adults, there's no need for silly X crossed arms gestures, red cards, or theatrics. Everything I'm writing right now is so antithetical, yeah, to everything that you see in so many role-playing books these days. When people are at the beginning, they're like, rules for your table. If someone is offended by something, discuss it. If it's a problem, you need to remove it from this. I'm like, screw that. You're adults. You're at a table playing a game for adults. If you're going to sit there and cross your arms and be like, no, I can't talk about spiders. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. You're afraid of spiders. That's usually what I do. I raise an eyebrow. I'm like, okay, we're moving on. People have gallows humor. They make dark jokes. They say inappropriate thoughts that they may not normally need to say. If everybody groans and stares at them, there's their reward. Don't go any further. It's like bullies. Anything like that. If you've got a clown at your table, all they want to do is laugh all the time and make everybody joke or make everybody chuckle, and they try so hard to do that. Let the table do that. It will die really quickly. It will go, boom, 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 boom. You go past it. You ignore it. If you start drawing too much attention to it, either they're going to, like a troll online, feed into it and be like, oh, I got a response. Now I have them. But if you just let it go and then die in the vine, and go, die in the vine, just let it fall off the edge of the waterfall. I'm offended by nothing, but highly offensive to others. There you go. Perfect. I mean, we had a person at my table well, it wasn't my table. It was the table I was at that one of my friends was running in college. We literally, when he wasn't there, we called him shithead. Not because he was what you might think, like this horrible person. In a session, he would just sit there and chuckle to himself. He'd just be like, we're like, we don't know this guy. What is he doing? Because we just let people play in our game. It was fine. We didn't care. And at one point, they were trying to get away from some guards in a town. And he's like, I got an idea. I'm totally going to escape him. Like, oh, dear. What is he going to do this time? He went into the stable. And we're like, oh, he's going to hide in the horse stable and put straw or something over him. I was like, oh, that's kind of a good idea. Nobody really looks in the horse stalls. No, he went in the horse stalls. He grabbed a whole bunch of horse apples and stuff. And he just covered himself. And he's like, nobody's going to want to touch me or come near me because I smell like poop now. We're like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm covering myself in stuff because nobody's going to find me for one thing because I'll smell like the whole stable, but nobody's going to want to touch me if they catch me, so I'll get away scot-free. Well, I was just thinking, okay, this guy's got some problems, and he was just laughing the whole time. He couldn't stop himself from laughing. I don't know if he had a fetish for it or if he was truly just a little unstable, but after his character immediately got caught by guards who were just, because he was sitting there doing nothing, and they're like, hey, there's one of them right now. We recognize him. And he's like, they hauled him off. And he was just like, well, why would they touch me? They're wearing gloves. They're also guards, and they're used to this. It's medieval times. It's not like they haven't been around disgusting people before. They hauled him off, and his character got in a lot of trouble. And then he left the game. A couple sessions later, he's just like, yeah, it's not really as funny as I thought it would be to be playing in this game. You're like, oh, well, it's not exactly a comedy sketch. So, that's fine. And he left. But we've never forgotten him. We've forgotten so many other characters. We had one where a girl wanted to play. We're like, she's like a teenage kid. I think she actually wasn't even a teenager. She was like 12 or something like that. And we're like, I don't think we should have her play at our table. We're all adults. And her mom came the next time and said, no, it's okay. I dropped her off for this reason so she could play with you guys because she always wants to play these games. We're like, okay. That girl turned out to be the biggest psycho ever. Because she wanted to go around every time we were fighting and stuff. She'd be like sneaking around and stabbing things, and she would cut off fingers of all the monsters. She's like, I want to collect their fingers. We're like, Okay, a little girl named Amber Glass. Okay. And she kept cutting off fingers of people and always wanted to cut up their fingers and having a finger collection. We're just like, did this lady drop off like a budding serial killer to us so we could watch her? But she would just sit in the room in the corner knitting while we all played, because this was at the Union on campus. She would just sit there knitting, and there's like, 50 people in this room at all these different tables playing games. And when we were done with our session, girl would go hang out with her mom and her little brother, because sometimes her little brother was there, and they'd just leave. But after a while, everybody in the game started giving the character a wide berth, because everyone's like, oh, it's a little girl. We've seen her. She's got a whole lot of fingers. We don't understand. And finally, she just kind of got tired of it and left, because she was like a kid. It was just like, I think my DM at the time, he kind of handled it well, but he also kind of didn't, because he drew too much attention to it. And I think that's what also made her really excited to keep doing it. So, hello, Shadow Warden. Psycho in game. Sure, this is the young Sevi. Man, I don't know. I don't know. She was a little redheaded kid, so I don't think so. Unless Sevi's naturally a redhead, I don't know. Actually, at this point, I'm not even sure if Sevi would have been born. I don't remember how old she is. This was in 1988. So maybe she was born, but she wouldn't have been probably a teenager or a near teen at that point. So it's probably too old to be her. I'm curious where some of those people are. And I almost posted on X the other day, because somebody had a discussion with me about this very stuff I'm talking about, where they asked me if I'd ever had somebody with a mental illness at my table, which is why I'm talking about this, because both of those people seem to definitely have some kind of a mental illness, whether it was bipolar or some kind of mania or schizophrenia or whatever they had. They had something. Another group I was in that same group, but it was a totally different game. When we were playing at someone's house, there was a girl who played there who was always moody, always up, always down. She was never somewhere in the middle, unless she was drinking, which I guess, I don't know if that's normal for people who have bipolar. But she would always, when we were playing, she would like sit next to me or hang out next to me or whatever. And we almost never talked, but she just, for whatever reason, found my presence comforting. And she had a really bad day once. She came in, I'm sitting there just with my legs crossed on the floor, because we didn't have enough chairs at my friend's house. We were all poor college students. And we're rolling dice and doing stuff. And she just leans over and puts her head in my lap and just lays there on my thigh. And she's rolling dice and stuff. And I was like, Kara, you all right? She's like, yep. I just need to be touching somebody. I was like, you could go hang out on one of the girls' laps, because I have a girlfriend and I don't really know you. She's like, nope. She's like, I can't help it. I've attached to you, and now I can't help it. I'm like, is she a werewolf? Is this a dog? Is it a cat thing? I don't know what it was. I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. And my DM at the time, he's just like, because they were friends, and he's just like, I'm really sorry about that. I don't understand what's up with her. I was like, I don't really care if it's comforting for her. That's fine. But it was disturbing some of the other people at the table, because one of the guys really liked her and was trying to get to be her boyfriend, even though she already had a boyfriend. And one of the girls at the table also really liked her and wanted to get her away from her girlfriend, and didn't like the fact that they were spending time with me. And so they started getting angry at me. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I'm rolling stupid dice, man. So I eventually talked to her and just said, look, I know that you think it's comforting or something, but I think it's causing problems for people. And while I really could care, I couldn't really care less. No, I couldn't. It's totally fine, but you're upsetting other people at the table by doing it. And then she got even more upset because she's like, oh, I'm always upsetting everybody. I was like, try this. Spread it around. Go flop over on that person, flop on that person. Or better yet, get the dog, the big snuggly dog over there, and just flop against the dog. And she tried that, and she found out that that was better because nobody got upset, and the dog was just like during the sessions anyway. So I'm like, okay, I just push it off on someone else. So I've had lots of people at my tables that are special. Sevi is naturally brown haired. Okay. I would say technically, I don't know. I don't know if they consider it. I say that's a mental illness, isn't it? Is autism now, is it bad to call things mental illness? I don't know. Because I've had plenty of people at my tables even that have like severe OCD or Asperger's and things like that. And honestly, you don't have to do much to accommodate any human being at your table. It's really easy. But when you know somebody has a very specific itch that needs to be scratched in a game, like if they're OCD about something or whatever, it's good to. That's one of the parts I'm going to be writing later when I get into more of the kind of overarching stuff at storytelling at a table. I was going to put this in the DM how-to book, the early DM book, like for fledgling DMs, but it's probably going to go in here, is why people make their characters the way they do. Because for some people, they make a character with a very specific set of skills or an idea or a backstory because they want to have that addressed. They're like, I want to have it addressed that my character was ignored by everyone, or was a thief when they were a kid, or they did this, or they did that. They want that to come back into the story. They want to address it. They want to act that out. It's therapy. Some of it's therapy because people make characters that have some part of themselves somewhere in it. Or they're trying to address something they're missing, or something they want, or something they like. I've always wanted to be a really strong, cool person, but I can't because, I'm in a wheelchair and I can't walk. It's like, great, do it. Play it out for them. But when I've had people at my tables who, if anyone touched their dice, they would immediately just shut down. They'd be like, my day's ruined. No, those are yours now. No. Just don't talk to me. And you took my favorite set of dice. They're yours now. And that is exactly how they approached everything. It's like nothing. They were like, I love you guys. You're all really good. As soon as somebody intruded upon something and said, hey, can I borrow your dice? And grabbed them, they were like, you're dead to me. I will never let you forget this the rest of your life. People realize real soon, do not touch his dice, for one thing. Don't ask to touch his dice. And don't especially ask to touch his dice and then assume that the answer is yes and grab them, because now you have made an enemy for life. And we had people who got violently upset by that and would start throwing things. Other people who were just shut down. We had people who assumed everybody in the party was trying to kill them all the time. So every character they would make would be not Batman level, because they were not that clever. It was more overt metagaming, because they would try and make a character and work with the DM and ask about every ability and stuff that they knew they could take when they leveled up that would be able to bypass a weakness of other characters. Because that made them feel secure. And I occasionally have like, you're not fighting against them. Be like, yeah, but if they ever turn on us, like, chances that are pretty low. That guy's a paladin, and you're a good cleric of the same god. Yeah, but if he does, I'm like, okay, you could do that. You are hampering your character somewhat. I don't really care because I'm not a metagamer with numbers, but make sure that it fits with your character's mental state and the way your character would do things. If that's the way you want to play the character, that's totally fine. I don't require you to take the most powerful thing every level. If you want to take fun things, do it. So, it's fun stuff. Having autism is kind of glorified that people who are not really on the spectrum say they are. Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to Was Dragon Noodle Soup bringing it up? I'm trying to remember if it was Dragon Noodle Soup or Horror Host. I don't remember who it was now. It might have been Dragon Noodle Soup when I was talking about stuff. Said, "Ooh, I may have some bad news for you." I was like, "What's the bad news about me talking about being warm when I eat food? I get really hot and steam up windows." It's like, that is something to do with people on the spectrum. I don't think it was you. It wasn't you, Shadow Warden, was it? Somebody was telling me that. And there was interfero inspection or intero inspection, something like that, where you can feel things going on in your body if you're on the spectrum. I'm like, cool. I haven't been diagnosed with it, and I don't need to. I don't care. It's not going to change the way I do anything. Doesn't matter. It's just me. I'm me. Whatever. So, it's interesting because it's weird when you get into like a dogmatic or an axiomatic statement like I'm making here, like don't negate. When a player says something, don't immediately say no, like that. Usually you try to say, okay, and then massage it into something else. Yes, you do think it's a good idea to put poop all over yourself to hide from the guards. But you might also want to hide your physical body under the hay or something, because now you're blocking your scent from the dogs that might be chasing you, but you're also hiding your visual, form from people by hiding under the hay and trying to help them with those thought processes or get something going. We've had a guy, who's decided, hey, I'm going to try this chaos magic. I was like, all right, chaos magic is gravity and it rolls downhill. And you cast it up here, it's going to roll down in that valley. And if it contacts things, it could have a catastrophic effect on that village. This was Rollmaster back in the day. He's like, that's why I want to try it. I said, all right, this is a wholly evil act, you realize. He's like, no, I don't think so. He's like, all I'm doing is setting it free. I'm not responsible. I was like, all right, that's fine. You can believe that, but the other people in the party will have a different take on it. He's like, okay, I understand that. And they had a big old argument about it and everything horrific. And that guy ended up leaving. That character left the party. He made a new character. And it was all like, yeah, it totally makes sense why they would be upset. And he understood why they were upset. He's like, I just really think my character wanted to try it. I'm like, all right, you're probably going to lose your seat at the table for the character. You're going to have to make a totally new character who's nothing like that. Otherwise, people are going to be a little iffy. He's like, no, that's fine. That's fine. And he made a totally different character. His next character was like this really do-gooder, whatever. He just loved to try stuff out, and it had some long-lasting effects on their group and the party. But I'm like, hey, why not? You're going to do it. Do it. It's like playing the damn love interest card. No. But do it anyway. I usually give people like a raised eyebrow at the table when they're doing that, and that's the part that I'm rereading here. Like, let's see. All right, infinite virtual environment. Okay. Yeah. Play DC comic character Isekai as a Batman from relatively similar to our world own, but he's from Chicago with narcissistic tendencies and compulsive liar. Okay, then. It's funny. I asked one of the people in one of my games that I ran for a group of people at work. They used non-stop. Everything to them was an anime term. They're like, oh, anime did this first. What you're talking about is this. What you're talking about is this. This is a blah, 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 blah. I said, okay, so some of these literary concepts have existed a lot longer than anime. You're attributing them all to anime. You're incorrect. These tropes have been around forever. I'm pretty sure Shakespeare was before anime. And his girlfriend was just like, talked to me later and said, yeah, he's kind of a bit much, isn't he? I was like, it's fine. He's really passionate about it. I don't care if he's passionate about it. I just want him to know that I don't understand 90% of the terms he uses. So he's not getting to me or through to me. So if he's trying to needle me, it's not working because I don't know what he's talking about. If he's trying to get through to me and explain to me how cool anime is, I still don't understand what he's talking about. I know what isekai is now and the tsundere and all these things. And I'm like, yeah, those concepts have been around forever. Yep, 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 yep. And it helped my knowledge to, get all that stuff in my head so I could actually react to them. But yeah, it's everybody has their own way of doing things, and people come from anime backgrounds. People come from like classic literature backgrounds. People come from Neil Gaiman stuff. People come from only having watched Critical Role, and they're like, "I'm really nervous because I don't do voices." And I looked straight at him and I said, "I don't do voices. I'm horrible with voices. I'm great with characters and inflections and ideas and repeated phrases and things, so you know which character you're talking to most of the time. But I am horrible at voices. I'm tone deaf to a lot of voices, so I can't do good improv of like a weird squeaky Mrs. Doubtfire voice. I could do them, but I don't. My heart's not in them, and they feel really flat and stupid, and I feel incredibly dumb doing them. So I just don't. And in all the time I've ever been DMing, nobody's ever had any problem with it. They're just like, oh, okay, that's just the way you do things. I'm like, you guys do voices till the day is long. Go for it. Because my voices are horrible. Oh my gosh. And an alcoholic. Party's constantly laughing about his antics. Nice. I have some people in my groups that I've been playing with for years. They're literally... that is what they live for. If they can make their group laugh, boom, then they're home. They're there. They're the class clown at the table, and that's what they want to do. They want to play, but they also want to make everybody chuckle. If they make everybody chuckle, they feel like they've really accomplished something, and that's pretty powerful at the game table, because if somebody feels like everyone is buying into what they're doing and enjoying their performance, in this case, it's making jokes at the table, they feel at home, they feel comfortable, and often that also gets them farther into playing the actual game. That's not true for everybody. I've had a literal narcissist at the table that everything he did fed into his ego, and that was about it. It had no effect on his enjoyment of the game, his participation in the game, or anything, because everything for him was feeding him, sucking the life out of everything else. And that, I would say, is one of the most difficult personality types to have at my table as a player, is the literal, actual narcissist. Whew. It's literally... and I keep saying literally, it's literally like having a vacuum sitting there and you like try to do anything and all the air is getting sucked over there all the time, because nobody can do anything without that person wanting to interject and make it about them and bend the rules so they can do something cool because they're the main character, and everything they do is really cool, and everything else everyone else does is like, yeah, but I kind of did it better and I did the most damage, or I'm the one who negotiated, or I did this. It was like, I'm tired of hearing the word I coming out of that person's mouth. But we did have some fun sessions with him. It's a little tough, though, because it does take kind of the wind out of everybody's sails if one person wants to be the center of attention all the time, especially when you split the party. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on that. We've also I've had some people that are super serious. They never want to talk about real life stuff. They just patiently wait until the session starts. They get into it, and to them, it's all math. It's all about how you do the most damage. It's all about how you do everything. I was like, oh dear. All right, so I write that thought down really quickly. Sorry, I write in my head while I'm talking to you guys, and then I come up with a couple sentences, and I'm like, oh, I'll put that down there. Also, dumb and mispronounces words like analyze. Yep, and that stuff. And I'm not attempting to be insulting here. This is me just saying, noticing this stuff after 40 plus years of DMing. That is a common thing that people will use often to try and get, the dumb guy across. And it's a worthwhile way of doing it because people react to it. People know, oh, this person is an Archie Bunker. This person is a buffoon or a yokel from Shakespeare. This person is, what's his name? Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. This person is one of the Three Stooges. It's everywhere and all over the place. It's Velrock does that with Dick. Well, he doesn't anymore because now he got his brain fixed. It's a really easy way to be like, hey, this guy's dumb. Boom, figured this out. And I've had a couple of other people play like dumb characters differently. Like I had one guy kind of going the full what was his name? Special Jack, whatever the guy was from Tropic Thunder, the guy that what's his name? Ben Stiller played his fake character he played, Jack or whatever. He went total that. We're like, okay. We had a girl who actually did a character who was, I don't know what she expected her to be taken as. I always took her to be someone who supposedly had like an Asperger's like thing, whatever, because she would be flat monotone. She would look at everybody like this, like Wednesday Addams, and she would say, that's not how you pronounce it. That's not how you do this. And everything was her specifically telling people that, unicorns aren't real. This isn't how you do things. And everything was delivered that same way. She didn't act like that in real life, but that was one of the things she did. And everyone would start to expect when somebody said, like, if your guy said, I'm going to analyze something, and she'd just look at him and go, that's not how you pronounce that. The correct pronunciation, according to Webster's, is blah, 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 blah. And that became expected. And that's kind of the fun of some of these role-playing situations, when people can start riffing off each other like that. It's entertaining. I like it. I have fun with it. But I've seen a lot, and I have this noted later in the book. But I wasn't sure if I should put it in this one or if I should put it in the other one. That and I brought this up to other people too. There's nothing new under the sun. So it's all things that have been done before. But if you can do it in a fun way, that's all that matters. Nobody's saying there's nothing new under the sun is not intending to stop people from trying to do fun things, but it's just saying nothing is new. There's always somebody's done it before. Is less a call to say you're not original and more a call to say, hey, we know this, so enjoy what you're doing. Have fun, because there are so many ways to put the puzzle pieces together. You may find a way to take 3 of those elements from a Shakespeare or who knows, some other character from some other thing, put them together in a completely unique way, but you're using all the same elements, which is fun. What are they doing up there? The cats have these shelves that I put together for them to sit on, and they have these posts that go into the top, and I have 2 of them on there, and I put paper towel rolls over the top so they could play with them. They got one of the plastic legs out, so it's a big, long plastic tube, like a paper towel tube, but it's long and plastic. They knocked one off, and they've been playing with it, so they'll grab it and roll it around the floor. I think that's what they're doing. Anyway, yeah. Oh, let me get my thesaurus here. My gosh, they are totally crazy. All right, there we go. Although I did have one person at a table complain to me when I said that, because they said, I've got a completely blah, 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 whatever for a character. It was not the narcissist, but the narcissist girlfriend, who they didn't go out very long because she couldn't stand not being as important in the relationship as he was to himself. She got mad because I pointed out, because he was saying something about his character, and he helped her figure out a character who was basically a foil to worship his character all the time, and used all these tropes and things. And I said, oh, like blah, or it's similar to this kind of an idea, and I like that. This is good because we can use that for this. And she got very mad and said, this is completely original character. And that's when I said, there's nothing new under the sun. I said, you can say it's a completely original character, and you made a completely original character. I'm sure somebody's written something like it before. Different name, and it's an original character to you. But the tropes and the ideas have been used before. And she's like, where the hell did you hear that stupid saying? I said, it's Ecclesiastes. It's in the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun. And she's like, it's not even real. It's like, what? She's like, the Bible isn't real. Like, it's a book. It's people have read it, so it's objectively real. He's like, whatever. She was a treat. She was a treat, let me tell you. Another one was when the cleric was trying to acquire transportation, my character interjected, why? According to this map, the red wizard was only 6 inches away. Oh, message 1 of 2. All right, what was that? Where was I at here? Improvise. Ah, there we go. All right, let's kick these 2 down here. Oh, why did I put that heading on there? It kicks back here. 7-inch ways, map further 7-inch ways, where the cleric had enough of it and said, if you fold the map, we'll get there quicker. Okay. Okay. All right, we're gonna take this off of that. We will kick this back to there, kick this back to there, and then we will add these back in as a manual tab. Okay. All right. We had if you guys remember the old, oh my gosh, I think it was a blonde joke, and this guy was tired of his girlfriend always, everywhere she went, she always had her Walkman on, always had her headphones in. It was an old joke. He was just like, oh my gosh, why? All the time, even when she goes to sleep, she has the damn thing in. And he finally, one day, he's like, my gosh, she is so weird and so dumb, because she was a dumb blonde. And he pulled the headphones away from her ear one night to hear what she was listening to that had her so enraptured day in, day out, all the time on a tape that she played constantly. And he listens, and it just says, in, out, in, out. And it was literally just a tape reminding her how to breathe. And we had a character who had a magical metronome to help her keep focused, and it would just do that tick tock, tick tock. And one of the other players finally figured out what it was for, because she was not too bright. She was a barbarian, and they're like, I think I know how to trigger her barbarian rage. They're like, really? How do you do that? And he cast basically a spell to interfere with her thing, and he kicked her metronome up faster, and it got her hyperventilating. I was like, oh no. And she was totally fine with it. She thought it was hilarious. I was like, they're going to use this to troll your character. And she's like, no, that's kind of fun. As long as they're not going to abuse it and get my character, killed or make her go unconscious from hyperventilating. I was like, they might, but you could get some protections, in built to the thing. Because not only was it to remind her to breathe, it was to keep her calm. And they found out that when she didn't have it, she was constantly and perpetually in a state of rage all the time, everywhere, all the time. And this was her people's way of preventing her from burning out and dying too soon, because she was, burning the candle at both ends by being totally crazy all the time. So it was kind of entertaining. It was also kind of like, it was derivative and funny, but I liked it. We put a fun little twist on it. It was fun. Yes, the breathe in, breathe out thing. All right, let's see. Don't say married to an idea you had. I'm talking about the improvised section now. Of not, as a DM, not staying married to an idea you had just because you had it. Because players will often come up with ridiculous interpretations of everything you've said that aren't ridiculous at all. You're like, how could they come up with... when I said this, they took that word to mean, okay, I unintentionally misled them, or they unintentionally misled themselves. Either way, they have a very flawed idea from my perspective of where the story was going, but I like what they're thinking. So it's like, there we go. We're going that way now. And somebody else, I was talking with, I made a bard at one point. Because normally people have bards that give bardic inspiration in 5e, because the idea, everybody thinks of bards as 5th edition bards. They don't think outside the box 90% of the time, unfortunately. And they're like, oh yeah, you're giving bardic inspiration. Yes, thank you for boosting us all up. I made a bard in a game. It was only a 3-session game we had, but my bard was the guy who was in charge of this group. And they're like, oh cool, we have a bard. And the first combat we got in, I was like, all right, I'm going to give a bardic inspiration to this guy. He's like, okay, what do I have? I was like, just a second. You guys are getting ready to fight. He just walks up to you, looks down at you, puts 2 fingers square in your chest, and says, either you defeat them or don't bother coming back. And he looked at him and he rolled an intimidate roll. And you can't really intimidate other players, but it just gave them the impression of how stern and how specific he was being about this. And they're like, oh, I think he means this. So all of his bardic inspirations were just terrifying people into doing better, because they were confused, or they were worried of what he or the people in charge might do if they didn't succeed. So his was all fear-based. There was no, yay, we're going to go to heroic heights. It's more like, don't screw up. I will kill you myself if you don't do this. And they had so much fun with it. One of the guys is like, they were fighting something and they were hiding behind a stump. And he looked over and he said to the DM, he's like, okay, I've only got 7 hit points left, and I really want a bardic inspiration. Is it okay if I make a wisdom save to see if I would ask for a bardic inspiration. And the guy's like, sure. He succeeded, and he just was like, made a little prayer to his god, and he looked over at the guy, and he just did the kind of like bring it. And so the guy, I have my guy just use his action to give him the bardic inspiration. I'm like, I'm foregoing my attack this round. He's gonna walk Captain Spears style, or Lieutenant Spears at that point. I don't know. The guy from Band of Brothers. He's just gonna run through all the hail of arrows and everything. He's gonna walk over to the guy, grab him by the collar, and say, "You're gonna get through this. Go get that guy." And he's like, "Okay." He went out. He took the guy out, and then immediately got downed, and had to start making death saves. And that was when my guy ran over to him, and he's like, "If you die, I'm gonna kill you myself." And he healed him because he wasn't gonna let him die by someone else's hand. It was fun. Chrysanth with the Perpetual Rage. I kind of like that. Yeah, it's so much fun to throw things together, plop things on their head, turn things sideways. There's so many places that you can do crazy stuff. What is going on with my phone is just beeping at me like nonstop. Okay. What is that? Oh, it's a cold weather warning. Well, duh, I knew it was cold. Hey, it's warmed up, though. It's only -3 now. 3. I can change this to -3. Let's see. -3. What did it say it felt like? All right, so that goes to... Oh, gone up a degree. And wait, what did it say it felt like? It looked like it went... How did it get warmer and feel colder? Did the wind kick up? Oh, no, it updated. Okay, never mind. All right, so it now feels... Hey, it's warmed up a few degrees. This is good. I'll update this so my temperature pops up on the screen better. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt and round down. All right, there we go. Temperature updated on the screen. How's that? How's that for warmth? Bam! Thinking you'd be coming out of left field to your DM, I had a Hexblade Warlock with high strength. The DM was looking at wonder why I have 14 points of strength. I'm not seeing the Tavern Brawler feat. Ah! Yeah, I have groups of people, different groups of people. Some of them love to do the metagaming, like all that fun, weird stuff where they're like, the synergy of this is going to be this. I have 3 classes, and I got this and this and this. And I got this for this class, this and this. And they totally work out all the things to make the most damage and do the whatever. And then I have some other people who do fun things like you're saying, like, hey, I'm this, but I also did this because my guy likes punching people. And I find those things pretty refreshing because it does throw things totally out the door. Like, I've made kobolds that people are fighting that the kobolds, they're not very strong. They're not very whatever. But when you get a pack of them doing something, you're in a serious amount of trouble. Because the one kobold that I had, and this guy, his master plan, over the course of a year, he got a bunch of kobolds that were the smartest kobolds in his whole group. And he taught them all how to cast a spell. They learned one spell. These kobolds, he had 24 wizards. They were technically a first level wizard because they had one spell. And they could cast it once per day. That spell was Magic Missile. These guys ran into this kobold tower area that was just infested with these things. It was an old wizard's tower because this is where the guy found the books and all this stuff. And they're like, we don't care that there's like 40, 50 of these things. They're kobolds. I said, all right, you do know that one guy, you've seen him before, he cast a spell. They're like, yeah, whatever. And one of the other guys said, well, wait a second. When we go in there, we got to be careful because he wasn't the only one that cast a spell. Remember that other one cast a magic missile and we had the guy who you shield and it stopped it. They're like, yeah, okay. They got in there. They almost wiped their whole party because they saw one of them cast magic missile and they saw another one cast magic missile. And that was all these guys could do. They can cast magic missile once and then they have to run out with a stick because they had cudgels and that was their whole attack. It was, magic missile doesn't miss. And you can cast shield and block yourself if you're a wizard. Other than that, these guys are just like, okay. And he yelled out I had him steal the line from Last Starfighter when they were totally fighting and doing all this stuff. The kobold yelled out a word and he struck his staff on the ground and they looked at their bard and they're like, what did he say? And he looks at him and he kind of looks at him and he goes, he just yelled out Death Blossom. And all of a sudden these guys all went, there were only 8 of them left. But that's 24 magic missiles against this party. Oh boy. Woo, the look on their faces. It was fun. Hey, I think starting a tavern brawl as a X-Blade Warlock is pretty fun. I like it. I enjoy it. Okay. How do I want to word this? So I'm working on a paragraph in my head in the back here. Because I have a lot of anecdotes I'm going to put in the paragraphs here, but I'm trying to get the kernel of the idea of not staying married to an idea. Because I've mentioned this to people before, and some people, they want to know specifics. They want to know where to take it. They want to know how far. The problem is it's a loose rule, and you have to use your own judgment. Because you can't dogmatically or axiomatically or like just 100% just say, I'm always going to change it when the players do this. No, you have to kind of have a feel for it. Amulet of Health when I started Bad Move, Dump Constitution at 1 level Barbarian, the rest in the Blade Singer Wizard. Yeah, see, people will multi-class and do all that stuff. Now, in my games, I've done something that has, at different groups and different tables, has either, actually sometimes at the same table, it's both energized and pissed off some of the players because they're like, some of them only know 5e and they know 5e and they know all the stuff and they know all the numbers and they know how to create, a horrific concoction of character in all these things. I give bonuses and free feats to players who maintain a single class because they are so focused. I'm like, it doesn't make sense for them to be getting these little things because 5e doesn't do anything really special for you if you stick in a class except give you the normal class bonuses. They do not compare to what people do when they start flapping things together and giving themselves ridiculous feats and crazy stuff that totally synergize differently. Like, you don't get that from a solo class, a single pure class. So I gave them little things, just little things, little teasers that kept adding up and adding up and adding up that really made some of the multi-classer, multitaskers really mad, but also made some of these solo class people really happy because they're like, oh, hey, I'm finally rewarded for sticking to a single class, because normally that is just looked down upon by some people. They're like, why the hell would you stick with a single class? I'm like, consistency for that player? I don't know. The other way I did it at another table is when people multi-classed. I went back to the old days of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons when I played is when they wanted to add a class of something, I said, this is fine. What we're going to be doing, because this is the perfect time for it in the campaign, is we're taking a hiatus. This is going to take you months to figure out. You were trained as a warrior to suddenly be like, oh, by the way, I'm a warlock. Like, no. You had nothing in your background about anything with any of this stuff. You just planned it. And they're like, well, technically my background, I said my father was a blah, blah, blah. And I said, great. That gives us a perfect way to work it in. You're going to go find your dad. And the player ended up loving it because what we did in that hiatus period is the other two players decided, hey, this would be fun to play out. One of them was like, can I play his sister? And the other one said, can I play his best friend? Because the guy kept talking about these people and he's like, you guys would do that? And we're like, hell yeah. So we made these other two characters and they went off and found his dad, and he found the guy who was in prison for doing horrible things with his warlock powers, got him out of prison. The guy introduced his son to the patron, which I made really revolting and terrifying because the guy didn't want to be a warlock at the beginning, but he fell into it and he realized he had no issues with it later. And he got his son involved in the same thing, and he ended up getting his warlock level, his warlock powers. One of the characters had so much fun playing his sister that she's like, can I just play his sister from now on? I'm like, sure, you can tell your character. The other guy played his friend as such a jackass that he's like, wow, I never imagined that my character's friend would have been that much of a jackass. But now that you mentioned it, the way that I wrote him up in the backstory, he did abandon me at a really horrible time. And we played that whole thing out of him abandoning him. Had so much fun with it. But then when we came back to the main story, the one character changed. But then he was a fighter with warlock level. And he absolutely had so much fun with that. He's like, I hate to ask, but he's like, my character progression, when I get a little farther on, is going into Echo Knight. And I said, okay, here's the thing. You know that I don't do Echo Knights because it is the dumbest class in the entire world. And it is a horribly broken class. No matter how much people try to justify, they're like, oh, it was written up wrong or whatever. I'm like, if you were doing this, I'll rewrite the class in a way that makes sense. I rewrote some of the stuff. He's like, well, you took all the good stuff away. I was like, no, I took all the broken stuff out. They made the class completely ridiculous and turned it into something a little more akin to something online with other characters. He's like, I'll just go with Sorcerer. And then he changed his class into Sorcerer. Then he wanted to add Paladin on the top of it after. I was like, my God, how the hell do you go from a fighter to a warlock to a sorcerer to a paladin? Realistically, none of that makes any sense. And I was like, you realize if you go become a paladin of this god that you want to become a paladin of, that god is not going to be happy of you having a patron. And also, you're having the sorcerer dragon bloodline. That god you chose is a dragon killer. That is what they're known for. He's like, well, yeah, but you know, the war things, they should all work out. I was like, no. These beings loathe one another. We're going to have to find some way to work it out. In the end, he decided not to go with the paladin route. But we did manage to work the sorcerer and the warlock and the fighter together eventually. It was kind of a hodgepodge. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. It was a little painful. It was entertaining. I say I'm only solo classed as a Shadow Sorcerer. I have solo classed everything. Everything. I have multi-class some characters here and there. Like I said, I've been playing forever and a day, and when I play these things, I'll play a character and I'll try it out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. I love solo classing. It is so much fun because people don't realize the versatility you can get if you stick with something, even if you don't get those bonuses like I talked about. I had a plain old wizard, and everybody's like, oh my God, why the hell do you play a wizard? When we got those characters up to like 10th level, after we kept finding spell books and spell scrolls and all this stuff, and she kept scribing spells and scribing things in her book. She had such a repertoire of spells, and I always prepared a very eclectic mix every day, just in case, because this was before they did some of the stuff in the later 5th edition now, where they have like spell flexibility and moving stuff in and out. I was like, I'm working within the rules, because Warlock and Sorcerer are the easy casters. You can flop everything around. You have fewer things, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Playing a truly versatile wizard is kind of tough. You have to be really on your toes and know what kind of things you may be encountering. So most of her questions were like, have we noticed any kind of things like this? Do we know what kind of an area we're going into? Okay, I'm probably going to need some way to see invisibility. I'm probably going to need this. She would always take things like shape water and all these weird spells that people were like, why do you even prepare those? When they came in handy, it was amazing. When they didn't, I'm like, well, I wasted the spell slot for that day. Eh. It's a lot of fun. And hi, JJ. You think if you could read, you'd be unstoppable. Well, we don't want you to read then, because we want you to be stoppable. We got to stop you in your tracks, man. Do it. My current character, by the way, in a private game with the Rudai on Thursday nights, Dave's in that game, and this Eccentric's in that game. He is an oracle, a nature oracle. He's not incredibly powerful. He's got some really fun spells and things. But I've made him akin to Rasputin. So he has Iron Jaw. He has Nerves of Steel, improved Nerves of Steel. He has combat reflexes. He's got a couple of other things like that, in addition to a few new spells. But basically, when he gets hit, if he gets hit, because he doesn't get hit too often. When he does get hit, he can shrug off most hits, even if they do wounds to him, because he doesn't have the negatives from having wounds. He just doesn't care. He's like, whatever, I'm hurt, fine. And he won't ask for help because he's mean. But he also has arcane resistance and improved arcane resistance, which means spells and things hitting him are harder to hit him. It makes things difficult, but it's kind of fun. He is just hard to stop. He's not as overpowered and crazy as he could be, but he also is just a hell of a lot of fun to play because, like I said, he's mean on top of that. So he hates taking anything from anyone. And I don't know if Dave or this Eccentric are here because they don't think they know this. We are Advance 8 because it's Savage Pathfinder. I think it's 8. That means we're veteran level. He has never taken a single item or magic item in treasure ever. Because everyone else is like, oh, I want one of these, one of these, one of these. Rolf doesn't care. He's like, whatever. I'm not going to use those crutches. I'm not going to do this stuff. He's just going to suffer on through and do his stuff. He hates getting spells cast on him that help him because he's annoyed that he feels like he's going to pay these people back. He doesn't want new items. He doesn't have any magic items. And he's still able to do all the stuff he's normally was able to do. He just increases some, abilities here and there. He is such a curmudgeon. He is so fun to play. Oh, I love that character. And when he dies, because I'm sure he's gonna die at some point, I'll be a little sad because he's so fun. He's so fun. He's so fun. Anyway, JJ, how you doing today? Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Okay, now that I talked all that through, I think I've figured out how I'm gonna write this paragraph. I hate this Copilot thing showing up everywhere. It feels like, because I can't see that well, it looks like a dot on the side of my screen. Like an, I don't know if you can see that. Can you guys even see it? Let me see if I can actually pan over there. I make it wider? No. Oh, you can't really see it. All right, well, never mind. I won't change it. There's this damn thing that shows up right here. You can see I'm hovering on the side of the screen. It's a freaking Copilot pop-up every time I start a new sentence, and I mentioned it before, but it's really annoying me. Anyway, I'm just annoyed. Annoyed. Did I already cover this? Wait, let me see one thing here. Okay, there we go. Anyway. How about anyway instead of anyway? Imagine the players at your table have misinterpreted according to your notes and plans anyway. Plain. I typed the best. I typed the goods. I want to say it that way. Now that I think about it. According to your notes and plans anyway. Okay, you have to... You need to do to... If you could regain full sight, but you had to step on a rusty nail like Marvin Home Alone, would you do it? Oh, yeah. Definitely. Because I've stepped on a rusty nail. I've jumped into a silo when my friend and I were playing in a barn when I was a teenager. We'd go out in the barn and there were rolls of tin, the tin sheeting for roofs. It was big rolls, and we'd bounce on it. We'd use it as like jumps, and we'd jump over the walls and jump onto it, because the barn was basically the first floor. It was just the crumbled remains of the first floor of a barn, but it had a silo. We'd play in that like it was a ruined castle, fighting like dragons and ogres and whatever all the time, because we were dorks in my teenage years. And I had an old fencing sword that we'd found in my house, and we'd play and fight, and I'd occasionally hit him in the head with it accidentally because, well, I was overzealous, and he'll never let me forget it. But one day, we're jumping and fighting, and we're like, ding, 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 fighting. And I jumped to get away from it, jumped into the silo, and I was like, ow, poked my foot. And I was like, oh, I think I really poked my foot. And I step out, and I take a step, and blood goes out of the side of my shoe. And I'm like, my friend's like, oh my God. So we got me back to my front door, and my little brother, who's 5, is like, oh, they're coming back in. I'm going to lock the door. And he locked the door, and I was like, you open this door right now or I'm going to kick it in. He's like, ooh. Click, unlocks it. I walk in, he sees the blood, and he's like, ah, and he runs away. We take my shoe off, and I had jumped onto the shard of a broken bottle that was sticking up, and it went right into my foot. And I still have the scar on the soft part of my right foot. It's only about this long because it was like a knife going right in. I'm like, oh dear. We cleaned it all up. My drunk stepfather comes in and there's blood everywhere, and he's like, "The hell are you guys doing?" Well, just bandaging my foot. He's like, "Clean it up," and it walks off. And that was medicine back then. That was medicine, the late 80s. And so I've done that. I've stepped on a rusty nail. I've gotten a rusty nail. Crap, I don't even remember which hand it was in now. I think it was in this hand. Luckily, I healed pretty quickly, but I got a rusty nail into one of these hands not that long ago. I was taking part of a cat enclosure. I think it was this hand. I think that's the spot there. I think it was right in here. So I do it. Yeah. Because, having sight's cool. Long story short, yes, I do it. When you said Marv, by the way, I was thinking the guy from Sin City. I think his name is Marv, right? I would do it. That's an easy one. Found an old sword in your own house. Old Sears catalog. Yeah. This was it was a fencing foil, but it was weird. It was one of the. It had behind the fencing tip, and the tip was kind of bent. It had a little bead on the end, but it was something you held onto like this. It's like you grabbed a hold of it like this or something and fought with it. It didn't have a normal handle. I don't know if the handle was broken off, but it had this weird thing so you could bite like with your wrist more because it fit in the palm of your hand. I love that thing. It was so much fun. I don't even know what happened to it. I don't know. Yeah, Sears catalogs. When I moved into my the house with my friends in college, they asked me if I wanted to live with them since they were all moving out of the dorms, and I'm like, sure, I'll move in with you guys. So the crux of the story is one of the other girls I started to hang out with who was kind of nice was like, they asked her to move into this house. And she's like, oh, cool, who's in it? And they named everybody off. And she's like, oh, definitely. And she showed up, and I was one of the people. And she's like, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm moving in. And she got a horrified look on her face because she's like, I can't live with a guy. Because my real name is one of those names that a guy or a girl could technically have. And she was like, oh, no. Because all my friends who wanted to have me live in the house, every one of them was a girl. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other girls. I was the only guy in the house. And they figured out they needed 6 people to pay the rent properly, so everybody got a nice share. Or got a nice cut of the rent out of their paychecks and stuff. So that's what we did. It was only for the summer. And we moved in. The guys who had lived there before hadn't cleaned a bunch of stuff out, evidently. Because the cabinets in the living room, we opened them up and we're like, oh, there's a bunch of brown paper bags in here. And they were normal grocery bags. There were 4 grocery bags full of porn. Just porn magazines. There must have been 200 magazines, and I didn't even know. You're just like, oh my God. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I can take them out to the curb. And one of the girls was like, no, I want to look through them first. I'm like, okay, have fun. And so they looked through them, and it was just like, wow, okay, somebody forgot something. They forgot the collection. That was technically that was right around 19... Was it 89? Or was that 1990? It wasn't 90. Was it? It might have been the summer of 89. I don't remember now. Shoot. It was right around there anyway. Anyway. All right. You have to think about how much changing you need to do the story down the line to accommodate their takeout, but you should definitely consider it. We'll go with easily. Oops. How about I say misinterpreted instead of mininterpreted? Doesn't make any sense. How much you'd need to do with the story down the line to accommodate their take on it, but you should definitely consider it. Not only rewards them for thinking about the campaign, being invested enough to come up with a theory, but it also makes them feel smart. Who cares if they misinterpreted your clues? May have delivered them poorly or in such a way as to be too easily misinterpreted. They may not have taken proper notes, or may all right. An idea. A thought is a good idea. How long have I been streaming here? I gotta keep track of some time. I have a couple more things to do before we record, or we do riffs later here. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, there we go. All right. I have been live hour and a half. All right. I'm gonna have to step away in a minute here because I gotta go check on kitty cats, see if anybody's at the back door. I heard a ding. So in fact, I'll do that while I'm thinking about this thought. I'll be right back. Be right back. Ooh, crack, flip my leg. That's always a fun sound. Ooh, that was brisk. Oh. All right. Well, that was a brisk little step outside. 25-mile-an-hour wind. Good thing I wasn't wearing shorts. That would have been extra cold. It'll wake you up, though. Woo! All right, you have to think about how much work you need to do with the story down the line to accommodate their take on it, but it should definitely consider it. Ooh. We'll go. All right, we're going to take that out of there. We're going to put it here. Maybe they misunderstood it. Okay. Could they be wrong? Could they be right? Okay, there we go. I don't need a comma there. That's good. So what are you up to today, Vajayjay? And also, is it very cold there? Is it cold there wherever you guys are at? Any of you guys? Are any of you freezing your parts off right now? Nope. Sorry, just reading through some stuff there. Let's see. Help you stay consistent. Notes on my syllabus. Tomix, did you run off into the ether?
I'm gonna guess he did.
Because, writing, the most boring of professions. It's not me punching Nazis, so, I did find a nice puzzle in Indiana Jones when I played. Was it this morning or last night? I can't remember. It was late last night, early this morning, whenever I played. That was actually a pretty good puzzle. I liked it. 21 degrees in Indiana, so you have to be further north than I am. Yep. I'm also near lakes and stuff, so we get some weather here. I'm also on a hill, so I get some extra wind. We'll go here. I'm only an hour and a half from Lake Michigan. My city is known as the Lake City, with multiple lakes within city lines. Ah, okay. Take notes either on a syllabus or in a document, on sticky notes, wherever it makes sense for you, and you can easily reference them later. These notes will help you stay consistent, to help you remember the choices the players made, keep you in the flow. Help you stay consistent as a storyteller. Oops, I don't need to capitalize that. Boop. Help you remember choices the players made, keep you in the flow, keep them together if you can. Let's see, we'll just say the notes together if you can. This is one reason I always take them. I always write directly on my copy of the syllabus. There we go. If you're lucky, the contraction UR sounds too formal there. Players will take notes as well. Some might even take more notes than you. Never be afraid to ask to look these over. Most players are more than willing to share a copy or let you see their notebooks. In my virtual games, I always create a handout or file in the program for each player to take and organize their notes in. This makes keeping them handy. I'm trying to think if I want to reword that. This makes it easier to keep them on hand. Makes it easier to keep them on hand since they're literally in the game. It also makes it easier for you to peek in them. Let's say peek at them. And see what stuff made the list, so to speak. Okay. We'll say virtual campaigns. All right. Here's the secret. Most players take notes on what sounds important or interesting to them. Boring or mundane occurrences and tasks rarely make it onto paper. So if it's in there, it's usually important to them. Italicize that. For one of my virtual campaigns, one of my players took 68 pages, 40K plus words, before we got to the end. Even though some of it was short notations, was just short notations. It elegantly spelled out the campaign from their character's perspective. The events of the entire campaign from their character's perspective. There we go. Yeah, I showed that to a couple of people recently that cited notes because I have it saved off as well. Literally 68 pages in Word. 40,000 words, so an entire novella worth of just notes on one of the campaigns. Some of it was, this person said this person said this. Some of it was the actual dialogue I spoke to them in quick form, back and forth, because that person is really good at taking notes and remembers the stuff. When it's not his turn to talk, he'll be taking notes. It was really fun to go back and look at it. I was like, oh, that's right, this happened. Oh, that's right, from that person's perspective. Oh, it's great because they get so invested in their character, they want to write it down because they want to remember it. For next time, they're like, oh yeah, I want to remember this because then I'll remember what my guy did in this session just in case I forget or we lose track of something. A lot of times they didn't have a whole lot of problem with that because they were pretty invested in their characters. But it's easy to have no idea what's going on sometimes. Right, for JJ? We're never going to hear from JJ again. Ever. Ah. Tasty cranberry juice. I gotta check one thing here. Where do I have that document saved? All right, let me look at this thing. Let this finish calling itself. Figuring out the numbers. Okay. All right. So let's see. This is right now. This is on track about. I've got about 50 pages here so far. Now I think I'm trying to remember. I put notes to myself and how big I wanted this book to be. Where's my outline? By the way, oh my gosh, open the damn book. There we go. All right, this is a bunch of stuff and outlines. Dang it, I had my research folder here for this thing. Where was it? No, okay. All right, so I'm gonna minimize that one because I want to look at that one in a second. That was this version. This was separate. This is my plan. Okay. All right. I'm trying to keep it under 80 pages. Right now I'm at 50 and I haven't filled out all the sections. Well, I might be able to keep it to 80 pages still. The problem I see is a lot of these books are like hundreds of pages long. They're just ridiculous. Stupidly ginormous, and they're trying to do everything to everyone. Not going to work. Not going to work. So I'm on track to still get this around 80 pages. Yeah, I think it'll be doing that because I still have to break these 3 things down. That's 6 more sections like this. And then I've got to do the entire aftermath blow up, and then I've got to talk about the syllabus. And then all these sections. Yeah, we're going to hit 80 pages easily. Okay. And there's going to be some pictures and some things in here too. So, I don't think we're going to have trouble. I don't think we're going to have trouble at all. What is this one set to? This is set to... I don't know what that is. It's set to heading what? Headings. Okay, that's just headings. Oh my gosh. I think Ian, my other black and white kitty cat up there, is getting in an argument with one of the other guys. They like to row at each other. Row. All right, so I'm in my other document here. All right, this is talking about the scratch pad. Okay, yeah, I got to decide if I'm going to put that. The job as a storyteller. Okay, I'm moving these things around. All right, that was the other document that I don't need to worry about that one right now. What I was going to do was go to this. Okay. Shadow Warden, have you ever DM'd, or are you mostly a player? All right, so this is silence. Okay. All right. I only got into the tabletop about a year ago as a player. Oh, okay. I was going to ask you some questions, but I can actually ask you these questions from a player perspective rather than a DM perspective. I can still ask. Yeah, I can ask you these questions. If you want to answer a question or two while I'm on here. I will go with this question. Let me go to. Let's put this in YouTube. I'll ask this question in YouTube. Blam. I have 3 questions. If you don't mind answering them. If you don't want to answer them, don't bother. I like how it posted it both. It posted it and then posted it. All right, whatever. All right, so there, we'll save that there. That ability to a player's action, descriptive distance surroundings for players to latch on. Nice. That is good. Have you watched a show, or do you have a DM right now that is like a really good example of that? I'm curious of that. Because I know some people who are relatively new got into it because, a friend of a friend, or they saw the show, or they saw something on like tabletop, Geeks and Gamers tabletop, or Moonskull, or somewhere else, or anywhere else in the YouTube sphere, or Twitch, or wherever. Some people started playing in person at a gaming store recently after the whole COVID thing ended. Others. In the form of your own notes. Likely have more work ahead of you. There you go. Stories. Clues come to an erroneous conclusion. They may think the wrong NPC is working the bad guy or even is the bad guy. We'll italicize that. Maybe they misunderstood a minor NPC's motivation. Would it hurt to let their idea stand? Should they be wrong? Could they be right? You have to think about how much work you'd need to do with the story down the line to accommodate their take on it, but you should definitely consider it. It not only rewards them for thinking about the campaign, being invested enough to come up with a theory, but it also makes them feel smart. Who cares if they misinterpreted your clues? You may have delivered them poorly or in such a way as to be too easily misinterpreted. They may not have taken proper notes, or they may just think differently than you do. Watch Critical Role passively, but never expect Mercer's DMing on anyone. Oh, okay. I'll give you my hot take. I think he's okay as a DM. He's completely run of the mill. With the number of games that I have been part of and the games that I've run and the DMs that I've met and people, he is firmly somewhere in the middle. Yeah, because he's fine. He prepares stuff. He's got voices and he does stuff with characters and things. What really helps with a group is having people who are willing to do things with their characters that are beyond mechanics. And when you get those characters playing together and you've got good players running them, that can do some pretty good stuff for your game because it gives the DM something to act off of. And I know there are people out there who will say that he is, God tier this or whatever that. I'm like, that's fine. People have limited exposure to everything in the world. They don't know what they don't know, and that is fine. I don't care. I'm not here to yell at this guy or face off with him. I am giving my honest opinion because this is the way I do things. In my disc profile for work, we have a personality profile. I'm high in a couple of categories that I want to make things better for everybody. And sometimes that takes the form of severe constructive criticism. And it is like, cool, what would make it better? Or I've seen this before, but what would make it better? A lot of people can take that as incredibly rude and obnoxious, but I'm like, no, I'm trying to make it better for everybody. That's the nature of my way of doing things. But all that said, when it comes to having those characters that people are playing that are willing to do hard stuff or make emotional choices or do whatever, and they may have some improvisational ability of their own, that's great. And like I said, some people have criticized them. I don't know if it's right or not because I don't know them. I don't know how they do stuff, that the stuff is really scripted and really railroady. I've seen it in some episodes. Other things I've seen on there, because I watched the first season. I didn't really care for the second season. I was like, I'm just kind of bored with it. It was just too much. But that's me. I can get bored of things sometimes. Anyway, there's a tremendous amount of setup in the things that he's done because he creates those big boards for people to play on. And if somebody decides we're not going into the lair, then that's gone. So there's a certain amount of, you have to do this because I spent 14 freaking hours on this damn dungeon thing and all the monsters and everything, and you're going to play it. That is part of a show like that. They have to do it. And I know people have said that, from the background, they have character meetings and this and that. Like, who cares? TV shows do that. Writers' rooms do that. They have reads over stuff. They do things. They can still improv. They can still have that level of improv. It doesn't matter how much stuff they prepared. And it seems like they're good at it. They're good at voices. They're definitely good at voices. Because I think they're all voice actors, aren't they? I think. Super cringe roleplay's first campaign is for funny, semi-realistic storyline. Interesting. I did have good DMs that could adapt to my Chaos Gremlin playstyle. Okay. Yeah, and, we have people who, that is their itch. They want to be chaos. They want to do that. And I talked to I think I talked to Feline, I talked to Dragon Noodle Soup, I talked to some other people about it because without pigeonholing people, you can tell a lot about people's personalities by what they choose to play. Not like, oh, they played an alchemist. I know everything about their personality style. No, no, no. It doesn't technically matter what class or what race they chose or how old they made the character or any of the other characteristics they've chosen or background. It's the tone and the style of what they're trying to get out of playing the character. Like, do they want laughs? They're trying to have fun. They may be stressed in their real life and they want laughs. And this is how they get, that relaxation. It could just be that they don't get to laugh as much as they want to at the things that they want to laugh at. Like, oh, I don't get to examine my dark humor around everybody at work or whatever because I can't. This is a great place to do that. It's a fantastic place to do that. They may be of the mindset of, I don't get to be heroic because my job is I push papers or I am a printer mechanic. I don't get to do that. Or I order printer parts for a living and place orders. But in a game, I get to be a cleric who heals people. They may be a really nice person and they're like, I get to play a bad person. And not evil necessarily, though some people do that. They may get to play a person who's incredibly selfish. They're like, it's just fun playing a selfish character because I don't get to do it. And it's those things that people get to examine and kind of, it's almost therapy for some people. Even though they don't know it's therapy, but it's role playing. You get to do something entertaining. Other people, it's literally just mathematics. And I called it this once. And I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to put this as a note for myself because I forgot that I didn't put it in here. I'll tell you in a second. All right. I'm sure somebody's used this term somewhere before, but I used it at a table when one of our guys was going into the details of his character, of all the synergy bonuses and why he has a plus that's higher than other people should have at a level where he was at and how he did it all and all the numbers and everything. And the enjoyment I could see in his eyes while he was talking about it was so present. And I said, after he got done, he's like, that's how I did it. And he's so excited. And everybody's like, oh, wow, holy crap. Whoa, God, Excel spreadsheets and everything. And they're all going on. I said, all right, now that we're done with the masturbation, can we get on to the game? And they looked at me, they're like, did you say masturbation? I was like, no, masturbation. And they said, oh, it sounded like you had a lisp there for a second. I was like, well, that's the joke. It's masturbation. You guys are totally doing math in the game, and you love it. You love the math. You're like, no, that should be a +2. I'm pretty sure it's +3 because we're on colossal scale versus the supernatural scale in Dresden, and since I have one higher scale, I'm in otherworldly, and they're only here. Therefore, my scale bonus is higher, and it should be 1. I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. That's right. I have no problem with people being right on rules. I occasionally do that myself. But masturbation in a D&D game is sometimes glorious and hilarious to behold. I like it. Do you like the arcane punk aesthetic of Critical Role 3rd campaign? I don't even know what. Don't know what that campaign was. I know nothing about it. I've played in some things like that, but normally if I've done anything that's, if you consider it arcane punk, it's Dresden Files. And the most arcane punk thing I think I introduced in Dresden Files was the Clockwork Nuns that the gang had to deal with. And they're just a group of individuals that have a very specific set of actions and orders and beliefs that they're following, and they call them the Clockwork Nuns, even though they're technically not nuns. They just have a very habitual lifestyle, and they live in a cloistery type environment, and it reminds them of nuns. That's why they're called the Clockwork Nuns. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever played an Arcane Punk. Is that like Spelljammer type stuff or like high magic, crazy magic everywhere? I'm gonna guess. All right. Now that I got my note on math, all right, that's a secondary question. Here, I'm gonna throw another question out here for you. I'm gonna skip the second question because it's kind of similar to the first. There's the other question. We'll see when it gets sent. I've got some really interesting answers from this question before. I've gotten a few answers that were almost hostile. Though when I sent these out to people, I had one person ask if they could send it to a fellow or their specific DM. I said, "Ooh, fantastic, please do." That person got back to me. That was one of the most hostile little email responses I think I've ever gotten to anything I've written. It was impressive. The person, she was very upset and asked what right I had to be writing something like this. And what put me in a position to be judging other people. Like, okay, well, if you want to be honest about it, I've been DMing longer than that person's been alive. I told her that. Second, I want to. And thirdly, if she disagrees with this stuff, I think that's fantastic because that means there's more than one type of DM in the world. It was, and then the responses I got to that stuff, I'm not even going to go into it. I finally just didn't respond to the person anymore. I was like, okay, I'm just going to not talk to the person anymore because they are angry about everything. The world made that person angry, let's just say. All right, what I got here? There we go. Blurp. Move that down there. All right, and go here. Strange Winds is about to wrap up. All right. Okay. Boop. Oh, by the way, people, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. That helps me a lot while I'm sitting over here on YouTube. I keep forgetting I'm on YouTube, and I should mention that. Arcane Punk is a high fantasy mixed with technological mix of steampunk without the limited Victorian times. Okay, got it. Yep. So yeah, it's similar to what I've been doing with the Clockwork Nuns, but not an entire society. This was just one little group of people. That would be an entire society. Okay, got it. Right. So doing yes and. Do I want to add another section to this for the notes? No, we're gonna leave that. We'll see. I'm. All right. You did answer these questions a long time ago. You are not wrong, Fantastic. I'm getting back into writing this book more because I've been doing this over the last month or so, a month and a half, since my break on December where I had free time. Because I'm like, this is supposed to be my self-published test. I'm literally writing this book as a test to see how I have to format it for self-publishing on Amazon, Kindle Direct, and everything. Getting it all set. I've got all the formats. I got the 6x9 inch format from Kindle Direct. I just got to write the rest of the book. And since I've been doing so much Legend Seeker and working on my second, the sequel to my first novel, which I still have to find a publisher for, because I'm still trying to find an actual real world publisher, not a virtual publisher, and not self-publishing that one. I may self-publish it anyway. But I also have a third book going that's a completely different setting and series and everything. So I'm working on 2 full novelizations. I'm working on Legend Seeker. I'm working on the short story for Legend Seeker. I'm writing this damn thing, and I have my full-time job. I've been busy. Plus, I'm doing all the streams. So I've been a busy guy. Luckily, I don't sleep a lot. Luckily. Problem is, my answers probably sucked. Why do you think that? Let's see. Respect of others' boundaries is all that comes to mind. One of my tables is quite dark, as we all agreed to a very, very grimdark story in the description of the scenarios. Okay. No, I mean, any answer is an answer. I never judge any of the answers, whether or not they're good or bad. The only thing I ever think is bad is like that one person's DM who got back to me and was just almost foul-mouthed about everything and just literally yelling at me, telling me I didn't have any right to be doing this, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, let's calm down. All right, so the next thing I was working on was talking about silence. By the way, hi, Fantastic. How you doing? Silence. A key ability of a good DM is knowing when to let silence reign for short moments, to not feel the need to fill up every moment with something from your mouth. Some players may like having a concentrated words coming from you. We'll say you. Keep the game going, but I love letting my players take the lead. If the players get so into their characters talking that they forget that I'm not interjecting, I'm as happy as a clam. I've had entire sessions where we play for 3-4 hours at a time that it's mainly the players talking to each other and NPCs literally just role-playing. And there's not a smidgen of combat. There's no maps. There's no battles or any of that stuff. And they have just loved it. Like I said, these are also, some of the groups that have written a 68-page document of notes for the whole campaign that is shorthand. That would be even longer if it was full notes. But yeah. The fun thing is, I've seen players playing forever. I mean, back in the day, there weren't a whole lot of options in your character class creation. Like in original basic D&D, you were a class, and elf and dwarf and halfling were a class back then. You were literally an elf, and that was your class, which was a lot of fun in basic D&D. But you didn't have a lot of options of stuff to choose until you got into spellcasting. Then you had options per level. Otherwise, it was you have your abilities to fight, you had your armor class, you had your things, and you did stuff. It was really simple, really streamlined combat until it came to casting sometimes. In the later versions now, there's so many options and so many feats and so many abilities. Inevitably, somebody forgets a key thing that they can do, which is fine again. Like I said, players go from heavy into mechanics because this is what they're presented with. Heavy into mechanics. It's mechanics. some background that also have mechanics built into them now because they're mathematically do something to the character or story-wise, or they do something to the character. Everything feeds back into something you can do or something that affects a way you do something in the character. It's rare to have first-time or even new-ish players spending more time coming up with the backstory and the mannerisms of the character than it is to have them understand how to do things in the game. And that's completely normal. That is normal. It's easier to get your head around that stuff. A lot of players progress from that into a few different phases. And I don't want to delineate them because it's not like they're all set in stone. But you get a lot of players who go from the mathematics to completely the other end, where they're like, I'm tired of all these stories. There are all these math things. I want story. And they'll flip the other direction completely. Not everybody does this. And they will be all story, and they're like, I don't care about the mechanics. Get away from me. Ew, brother, ew. Or what the hell is even that? But then most of them will find a happy medium somewhere where they will enjoy, say, multi-classing. Or if it's in a different system, they will choose edges and flaws and things that really complement a certain part of their play style. But they'll keep heavy into character. Or they may flop back a little farther and be more into mechanics and worry a little less about the story than they did previously. So there's always people moving across the spectrum of all the things you can do in a game. And sometimes they'll even change like their opinion on game systems. They'll suddenly be like, I don't want to play this type of game anymore. I'm sick of it. They're like, I want to go back to number crunching. Or I want only story. I don't want numbers. Kind of fun. Grimdark descriptions would go out of bounds. Most people, especially Parathis, when I described what happened to him and he agreed he would walk out mid-session. Interesting. Yeah, we played some fun campaigns. I had a friend who ran a Dark Ages Vampire Dark Ages campaign for us. My guy was this big, beefy, monstrous gangrel who had a permanent wound because he was such a monster to the people in the village. Because he was, wrongly accused of some stuff, but he took his vengeance on the people, and they finally got him and captured him after he killed a bunch of the people who had wronged him, and they hung him. But he was so big that they didn't notice when they hung him that it broke the branch slightly, and he was able to still steady himself on his toes slightly. And so he hung there for a whole day with his neck almost broken, gasping for breath and dying, until a vampire came by, sitting there watching him, and then just decided, he's pretty tough. This is impressive. He's still standing there just staring at me. He's like, okay, made him into a vampire. So every morning he would wake up, his neck would be broken, his face distended, his tongue hanging out, because he would wake up in the state he was turned into a vampire, because he was pretty much almost dead. So he had to heal himself every day. And if he didn't, it was pretty horrifying. But that's just one little thing. The creature that we had been chasing across with these other vampires up into the Danish lands was this creature called Whitebelly. This vampire that we're just like, we got to take this thing out. It is horrifying, and it's trying to kill all these people and doing all these things. It's invading people's dreams and everything. When we finally got to the thing, we vanquished all these Danish vampires, all these horrible monstrosities and things. We got in there, and it was a woman, a Danish woman, who had died not in childbirth, but right before childbirth. But because she was, they tried without giving anything away, so not that it really matters. A vampire tried to embrace her while she was dying because he's like, I've got to save her. he didn't end up making her into a vampire. It made the baby into a vampire. She died, but the baby is connected to her, and the baby was the vampire, and that's why she was called White Belly, because she was a pale, fleshy creature, and he was the little baby was basically puppeting her dead body the whole time, and it was horrific. And when we found out what was doing it, my character was like, how do I deal with this? And so he ended up going to her while the thing was just gibbering mad inside her because it couldn't stop him, and going up to it and just embracing her and just crushing her and killing her to end the whole thing, because the baby was super powerful, but it had no physical abilities for the most part. It could move her body a little. Then once we finally got after everything, it was a horrifying ending to the whole thing, but it was a cool ending. But it was just, it was such a gross campaign. I loved it. I loved it. It was, it was gross. But that's Dark Ages Vampire. Woo! Didn't I copy these down here? I don't think I did. I think I'm going to copy these things down here really quickly, because I have to. Oh, it's already 12:30. All right, I got to go relatively soon because I got a few things to do before we do riffs later. But I want to copy these down here. Boop. We'll put these here. I'm going to get rid of these. All right, and we will blurp, blurp. And what we're going to do here is indent both of these. And all right, we'll go with tension as the subtitle for this one. And we'll, oops, I gotta pop this back in. I keep forgetting that pops that back out. Oops. Boop. And we go with body language is the word. And then we will pop that in. Boop, 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 boop. There we go. Cat. Meow. Well, it's a good time for me to go up there and cause a problem for them. I will cause a problem for them by being there. Go up and say hi to them. Sit on the couch with them for a little bit and let them crawl over me and run around. All right, I'm going to set this back to restream. Cool. Let me check the temperature one more time here. See if it's changed again, because it may have gotten warmer. I'm not going to update it since I'll be hopping off, but we'll see here. Oh, we got to positive degrees. It's 1 degree now. 1 whole degree. Woohoo! All right. Well, I am going to get the hecketh out of here. I will be on Rifts at, 3 Central Time. So that's in 2.5 hours. And yeah, I will talk to you guys then if you stop on by JT's channel to watch Rifts. So I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all for coming by. Thanks for answering questions, and thanks for chatting with me. And I will talk to you all later. So have a good day. Enjoy your Sunday. Stay warm.